One. Welcome back to another episode of Backyard Dynasty. You are here with the main crew. You got here with Fleet, Fancy, and Scanny. And today we got a great show for you. We're going to go ahead and do a Week 9 review, share some takeaways, and then get into a nice preview for what Week 10 has in hold for us. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get into it, fellas.
Let's do it, man. It was a good little week, huh?
Indeed. We got a nice little change of scenery in here, too. If you may not notice, we're not in the backyard today.
Indoor Dynasty today.
Indoor Dynasty
today.
That's a nice little change of scenery. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into it. Takeaways from Week 9. Man, I think the one thing that we've all talked about is CJ Stroud has arrived with a statement game, man. Dude, set a rookie record, I think.
Yeah.
Just before we dive in, how fitting that we mentioned this right after we're filming this right after the Thursday night football. That wasn't even football. That was whatever that was. The Thursday night game that just ended featuring Bryce Young, who was obviously the first pick in the draft, didn't do a damn thing.
Big contrast in the seasons that those guys are having,
so it's
right?
just ironic that CJ blows up.
Yeah.
Right. But dude,
I was just telling you guys before we started recording, I was watching that game and I felt legitimately uninspired by everything I watched. I mean, let alone the fact that it was the Bears versus the Panthers, which is like a nightmare, but fitting for Thursday night because Thursday nights have been really bad this year.
They're so bad.
And I was telling Fancy this. There's just something about Bryce Young, at least right now in his first season and the situation that he's in right now. There's nothing that he does that inspires me, that gives me hope that he's going to be something special. And we saw it in college, right? I mean, he made plenty of plays, and I think that's like the conversion and the transition that he needs to kind of get used to a little bit. But man, I see him. There's no emotion. There's no like special plays that even if he has nobody on his offense, like really to make a blow up play, there's nothing that he's really doing to affect the game and really be that X factor as of right now.
Right.
Is that coaching? Is that scheme? I have no idea. I guess time will tell, right? We have to wait for maybe 2-3 years into his career. But man, as of now, I watch him. I'm like, this is not the same player that got drafted, man.
Yeah, man. Now it has you thinking who should have really been that number 1 overall pick.
Maybe that guy with 470 yards
and 5 touchdowns.
And he was spreading the ball out. He was spreading the ball out.
Completion rate, well, I don't know his completion rate, but he's 30 for 42.
Quick math.
Dog.
68%. Got it.
That's
I made it up.
for
I have
sure
no
not.
clue.
I know you did.
Let's find out. Well, I'll do the math. You guys keep on.
No, but yeah, statement game by CJ Stroud. And I think this whole Texans offense just took they leveled up this week and really showing the type of firepower that they have.
Definitely 71%. So
71%.
almost close.
Yeah, you're close. That's a respectable guess.
Yeah.
But along with the Stroud game, the continued nice season from Nico Collins.
Yes.
And he was like the lowest
Tank
man
Dell.
on out of everybody there. He was the one that ate the least.
Yeah, he was the third best receiver. out there.
Honestly,
Tank
fourth
Dell.
when you count Dalton Schultz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, Tank Dell, blow up game.
Noah Brown, nice little cameo.
Yeah.
I mean, when you throw 470 yards and 5 touchdowns, everyone's bound to
Somebody's
eat, right?
gotta
But
eat.
I mean, there's a sneaky season for the Texans wide receivers this year in fantasy.
Yes.
That was something going into the season. Nobody was like, okay, like we'll see what Stroud is, but nobody expected Dell to have this many boom weeks. Like we mentioned, Collins, Dalton Schultz. I mean, we know that he was like a top tight end that they acquired, but he's actually had a very respectable season as well from a fantasy standpoint. So
yeah, I think he's tied in 10 on the year so far. Yeah, tied in 10. And yeah.
Did he miss games? Was he injured at all? I don't know if he missed any games, but
No, I don't think so.
You're
They
a
had their
Schultz
bye
owner.
week already, though. I do have Schultz.
You've been reaping the benefits of the Dalton Schultz
Yo.
renaissance in Houston and Nico Collins.
And it's very fitting because Darren Waller just went on IR with a hamstring injury. And so now I got Dalton Schultz to plug up in there.
good old Waller and that hamstring.
Man.
I'm gonna throw out a crazy lob. Okay. Waller's played his last game.
Ooh.
That might I mean
I would disagree with you. Yeah, I would disagree with you, but that
think-
hamstring can linger, right? And we saw it last year. And if you don't take the time for it to heal, it'll linger and you'll just re-aggravate it. And the second time's always worse than the first time.
Yeah, he better be like Todd Gurley. Now you see him, now you don't.
I genuinely think he doesn't want to be in New York either. I mean, he
Does
got traded
anybody
there,
want to be
so
in New York? Yeah.
yeah, he got
He should
traded
still be
there.
a Raider right now. If we're
He
being
should
if we're
be.
being
Yeah, he
honest,
should.
if McDaniels hadn't been such an ass and leaked the fact that he was going to get married to Kelsey Plum hella early, because he
Yeah.
was trying to keep that private. That was like one of the first signs for me as a Raider fan. I'm like, you just can't even respect a coach that does something like that. And I'm not
Right.
saying that was the final straw. I mean, dude, at the end of the day, an organization doesn't care if you leak a player's wedding
Mhm.
date. You know what I mean? Waller did. I mean, that's probably why he was unhappy, and they ended up probably moving on from him. It gave him more of an incentive to move on from him.
Yeah.
But when somebody, and we should talk about this too, a little transition into McDaniels really quick. Disaster class from McDaniels.
Mm.
When you do stuff like that, like countless errors, countless mistakes, the signs are there, and the fact that he lasted this long is shocking.
Right.
I mean, they didn't score over 20 points for how many weeks with that offense? Bro, it's embarrassing, man. The fact that he even got that job, first of all, but kept it. I mean, it's like, what are we doing? But
Right.
thank God they got rid of him.
They've turned Devontae into Alan Lazard.
Dude,
Respectfully.
Devontae's fall off has been actually very eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
Very eye-opening. I do think his stock is up for the rest of the year, though, is what I'll say. I think this is the worst patch he'll have throughout the year.
You better hope so. How much worse can it get?
It's like 4 or 5 weeks straight now of single-digit standard
Right.
scoring. I mean, even in damn near full PPR, it's still
Yeah.
single digits. It's like, dude, that's bad.
I
That's a
think it was
huge
1
fall
for
off.
11 and then 4 for 34 this last week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was bad.
Yeah, man.
But O'Connell will get him the ball a little bit more down the stretch, I think, and he'll kind of finish stronger than what he's been doing.
Is he the
Yeah.
rest? Is he the rest of season starter, or is he just right now just week to week?
Ooh, that's tough, man. I mean, when you put the draft capital that you did into him, and we're just talking redraft, dynasty, anything really, you kind of have to start him. I mean, just because he's still that number one. And O'Connell, I think his targets went up significantly last week. So I don't know if he got close to like 7 he had like 7 to 10-ish range, I believe.
Got you.
So I think his volume will get him starter, consideration for the rest of the year. But we'll see. Enough about the Raiders, man. Let's keep moving on to week 9 stuff, man.
In
Yes,
that same
indeed.
game, the Houston game, let's just a little shout out to Rashad White. Same game.
I was just gonna say,
dude. I mean, on the rushing part of it, not a whole lot going
wasn't
on,
that
but
efficient.
yeah.
that
but-
dude, he's a receiver, man.
yeah, he is.
He's
Yeah.
solid.
He's a nice little dual threat. And that was what we all expected going into the year, right?
Yeah.
We kind of expect, okay, he's going to have this role where he can be a dual threat and he can maybe take over this backfield where he's going to get plenty of touches. He's going to have good fantasy value. And he started off the year sort of decent. He kind of had like those Tony Pollard from this year weeks where it's like
Right.
just getting into double digits, but it was never efficient. He was TD dependent. And then he had this absolute fall off where he was like damn near unstartable for a few weeks.
Yeah, Keyshawn Johnson, is that the guy's name? It was something like
Keyshawn Vaughn.
Keyshawn
Keyshawn
Vaughn.
Vaughn,
yeah.
Yeah.
And but like the last 2-3 weeks, he's put up very solid numbers. In this
Right.
last week, of course, bald.
Funny enough, he's been putting up pretty substantial stat lines. But the thing is, he's putting up good fantasy scores. That's what I meant to say. But
Yeah.
he hasn't scored a touchdown. He doesn't score touchdowns, and that's kind of the crazy part. But like he put up basically like 23 points in standard scoring, but his stat line 20 for 73, he averaging 3.7 yards per carry. So it wasn't the most efficient, but his receiving end, it was 4 for 46 to your point, and then he also had 2 rushing touchdowns. So I mean, like, and I'm sure those were like goal to go carries
Right.
type of deal. But just the sheer volume of what this man is getting, it's like that's what I feel like that's what pushes him into the tier of like a Joe Mixon or like an Alexander Madison. Like they've been getting they serviceable because of their sheer volume. So I mean, hopefully this man can get into the end zone a little bit more too.
Speaking of Madison, we did it last week. We had a moment of silence. Cam Akers, another Achilles.
Yeah,
That might be it, man. That might be it for Cam Akers. So real quick, the crew, give me 3 seconds of silence for Cam Akers. From one Cam to another. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Tough
Moment of
times, man.
silence.
Very tough
man.
times.
The thing about Achilles is it's such a brutal injury, though, man. Like the recovery, and everyone responds differently. It's just very tough, and it's career altering. Like you said, like it may be it for him. I mean, who knows if he'll even get a spot, man? He's going to need another shot at a roster or something, but we'll see if he ever becomes the player that he was supposed to be.
Yeah, bro. Both Achilles shot, and did he have knee injury too?
He's had everything, man.
He's had, but if you have a double Achilles injury, that's tough.
Get that Achilles squared.
That shit.
Yeah, and part of me starts to wonder, like, okay, injuries aside, he was in the doghouse often with McVay.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, I wonder if McVay just had something against him, or did Cam Akers truly like have a work habit issue? Did he not show up? Was he not like, grinded to like earn that spot?
Yeah.
I guess we'll never know, but there was reports that backed up what McVay was saying, but just too bad all in all. Like, no matter what, you hate to see somebody have that many injuries and like tragic injuries at that. So
he did also fumble in the NFC divisional round versus Tampa. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
When Tampa had that big comeback against the Rams and they were running the clock out and then Akers fumbled. Brady scores.
And that was the year Tampa won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, that's tough.
No, the Rams ended up winning that year. That was in the divisional cup, cut like a 50-yard bomb with like 30 seconds to go.
Yeah.
That's when the Rams beat the Bengals on a very BS call. But we won't dive into that. We won't dive.
Let's dive into a duo that's been probably the hottest the last 2 weeks. One more time for me. Scanny CD Lamb and Dak Prescott. I mean, this is what we thought that they could be, right? I mean, every single year, Dak and CD are like, okay, this is what they could do. Right. And then they do it like 5 weeks out of the year. And you're like, okay, what happened the rest of them? But this is that stretch now, right? We're entering that stretch. We'll see if they continue, but we are in the middle of that
This
stretch.
week, I expect a cool off for CD, only because they're playing the Giants. And I think the spread of that game is at 17 right now. So we'll probably see a lot of running in that game. We'll probably see CD and Dak in the first half. And we'll probably have a fourth quarter quarterback change and a lot of receiver change. But, hey, CD
Dak versus DeVito, right?
Dak versus DeVito. CD's been balling. 193 yards this past week. No touchdowns, but
after I trade the man,
he's going absolutely.
That's going to go down as an all-time.
But Aaron Jones and Olave, who are also in the trade, both coming off good weeks. So let's.
Bobby White. No, I still believe we made the best trade. It's just that on my end, I may have made the trade a week early.
Yeah,
a week early because that's
you definitely made it a week early. I'll tell you that. You definitely made it a week early.
Okay, I made it in a good time to beat you.
That's all good. But
it's very true.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
this is the first
beating me though is not that big of an accomplishment.
This is the first season I've swept you though. That's why I'm like,
it's the first for damn near everyone, bro. My team's horrible this year, so it'll be my first losing record in like 7 or 8 years.
The circle of life,
right?
It happens to the best of us, right?
It does, yes, indeed.
Another moment of silence, bro.
For
Fleetus. I'm playing.
Oh, okay. I was like, damn.
Here lies the.
It's not that
season.
bad.
The season's not even over yet. Wait a minute.
Nah, but Dak and CD, man. But you know the Cowboys, man. This is what they do. They show you their promise. They have one game every year where they like shut somebody out at home with like a 40-point blowout. And then they get to playoff time and winning time. And
in this game, like the actual football game ended in the most Cowboy way possible. They march down the field. They get to the 11 with like 30 seconds to go. They're down by 5. I think they get a holding penalty, and then Dak gets sacked. No timeouts. And then they throw it to CD short of the goal line, gets tackled at the 2-yard line. That's it. The most Cowboys coming up short when you had it right there ending.
Not to mention Dak stepped out at the 1 or 2 yard line on a 2-point conversion.
Yeah,
like if
that's
he
right.
didn't step out of bounds, it would have been at least a tie game and we would have overtime. But the cookie didn't crumble that way. I think that's the thing with the Cowboys is like they're just their execution, and when it comes to crossing your T's and dotting your I's, they just cannot deliver. They really cannot when it's the small things, and that's what's gotten them like literally year after year. So I feel like that boils down to coaching. Like their coaching, like the way that defense is coached, disciplined. It goes kind of crazy.
That's Dan
Quinn.
Dan Quinn. That's right.
Like that defense is disciplined, but man, that like the penalties and this just the ticky tack stuff. That's what that team's downfall is going to be. It always is. It always is and always will be. Okay, I digress.
Yeah, no, we're good. I mean, enough about the Cowboys. So and I'm gonna skip a couple of topics here really quick because I feel like this one's really worth talking about. But from one quarterback in Dak to another, let's go from Dak to Dobbs. I feel like this is one of the biggest stories of the week besides Stroud for me. And it's one of my favorites just because you see this guy who was in Arizona, right? in Dobbs, and he was halfway decent for filling in for Kyler Murray, who is now, by the way, coming back. So good for him. But you see this guy get dealt, and he goes straight to the Vikings as like a insurance policy. Jaron, I forget what
Jared Allen.
No, that was quarterback that they.
I can't remember. Jaron Ford or Jaron Allen or something like that. But
I was gonna say
he gets banged up like 2 possessions in, which, by the way, that sucks for him, man. That was like his big opportunity, and then concussion immediately out. That's brutal. But Josh Dobbs always staying ready. I mean, dude, he's working on his cadence and his calls on the sideline, like the possession before, and for him to step in, get the W, and play extremely well. Yeah. I was like, salute to Josh Dobbs. And I seen somebody on Twitter, I don't know who it is, so sorry for that. But they said, I could see Josh Dobbs being the next Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I was like, oh my God.
Yo, that fits.
I was like, oh my God.
The crazy thing is I thought Josh Dobbs was like relatively new in the league. He's been in the league for like 6 years.
Yeah, he's been around, man.
He had a nice little stat line. He was 20 for 30, threw for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then had 7 carries for 66 yards and a rushing touchdown.
Yeah. In a game, he had to step in immediately in an emergency. He didn't even know his teammates' names.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, dude, that's an impressive performance from him. So shout out Josh Dobbs.
He also salvages the fantasy value of all the rest of the Vikings.
Yeah.
Because now you can actually play Hawkinson and Addison and Madison.
And now Jefferson coming back possibly this week. If not this week, then most likely next week.
The only question,
you still have promise for him to get that volume that makes Jefferson so valuable.
Yeah, I just realized that all the Vikings, do you have to be a son, Addison, Madison, Jefferson, Hawkinson? Jesus, who are we drafting, guys?
The only question mark I have around that, and don't get me wrong, I'm a Addison owner, and I'm excited that there's hope, but I want to see if Josh Dobbs can support multiple fantasy relevant players. Because he was doing it in Arizona with, Michael Wilson, and he also put in Trey McBride kind of on point.
Like he was giving Ertz, and then Hollywood Brown's still there, right? So he's
been kind of quiet so far, but I feel like Addison, Hawkinson, I feel like in just the overall environment is a lot better than what they had in Arizona.
Major. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, we'll see. But shout out to Josh Dobbs.
And he didn't even have so I watched, I think we might have mentioned this on a previous episode, but I'll quickly say it again. I seen a YouTube short or a TikTok, whatever it was, of Josh Dobbs, like week 3, go to the Cardinals store and you can like create a jersey. They have a touchscreen thing. You can be like, I want this color jersey and I want this player. And it has all the players, every jersey number. They didn't have him.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm the quarterback.
Starting quarterback.
They have everybody. They got special teamers. They got 3rd string, 4th string DBs. They didn't have Josh Dobbs.
I would have left Arizona with a quickness. Poverty franchise. What?
So, yeah, he's a good dude. He seems like a nice guy. Happy for him in Minnesota. Good guy, just like Kirk.
Yeah. And I think it's and going back to your thing really quick about can he support multiple stars, I don't know if it's realistic to expect him to be able to do that, but I do think he has the upside and potential to maybe be able to do that just because of the upgrading system, the upgrading environment, the weapons at his disposal.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, the next few weeks. I mean, I don't know if Jefferson's for sure going to play this week. I think it's sounding maybe like they'll give him a little bit more time. But we'll see this week with a full week of preparation and getting used to Addison, Hawkinson, like we said, all the sons. So,
hey, Loki, Dobbs a sneaky stash. If you need a backup quarterback.
So yeah,
only for the rushing upside.
I'll stick with Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
bro. But I'm saying, bro, like Josh Dobbs, like the rushing upside is ridiculous. He's quarterback 11 on the season.
That is crazy.
He's quarterback 11.
That is crazy.
And I wish I could see his numbers from when he was on the Cardinals, but they refreshed it online. But yeah, bro, quarterback 11 with his legs.
Not bad at all.
Not bad.
What's more surprising, him at 11 or Sam Howell at 5?
Probably Dobbs at 11.
Dobbs,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
But let's talk about somebody else in Vikings since we're already here. Somebody who it really impressed me. Finally, I mean, we knew he was a top tight end, but now with Jefferson out, it's like, man, when Jefferson comes back, of course, his value's going to take a hit. But man, he really stepped into that elite stratosphere of tight ends when Jefferson was out, and it didn't matter really who was throwing to him, Kirk or Dobbs. But dude, Hawkinson last 4 weeks. I mean, we're talking 9.2. This is standard. 9.2, 14-1, 16-8, and 10-4. I mean, that at the tight end position is pretty much elite production.
That's
disgusting.
Yeah, and I mean, especially after Kelsey had the quiet week that he had this last week, and stuff like
Taylor
that.
wasn't there, bro.
I know, right?
She wasn't there,
dude. Kelsey with Taylor in attendance is pretty much
dude.
best
That
tight end of all
stat is
time.
actually kind of crazy.
It is insane.
Like, the numbers are so different.
But
it is.
That's a real thing.
She wasn't going to travel to Germany though.
Nah.
That's a real thing, bro. When you got your shorty in the audience,
That is true.
Just know I'm finna put a little extra oomph in my step. You
Side
feel me?
note, hella funny. I was sitting on the couch watching the Thursday night game, and I was telling my dad,
This game tonight.
yes, I was watching it, and all of a sudden, Jason Kelsey comes on my TV, and they start interviewing him. And I told my dad, I said, that this is a perfect depiction of how bad and boring this game is. They just brought Jason Kelsey in, who's on a bye,
Literally
has
an active
no
player.
has no relation or correlation to either of these teams playing tonight, and they're just interviewing him and talking about the tush push rather than covering the game that's going on right now. And I was like, there's not a more obvious way to say we actually don't care about this game than bringing in some dude who's on a bye and who runs the tush push and is a center to come in and talk. And I'm like, what is going on here? And Al Michaels, first of all, having a blast talking to Jason Kelsey. I'm like, he's more passionate about talking to Jason than he has been about any game that he's called this year. And I'm like, dude, Al, you gotta tone it down, bro. You sounded too happy to be not talking about the game. Like, that's your job.
People have been on Al Michaels the last 2 years about his decline as a commentator. I think a lot of that, though, is absolutely
warranted.
He's gone from here to here quick. But I think a lot of that also is the games he's covering, because he's now the Thursday night football guy. He's not getting Sunday night 49ers Eagles. He's getting Thursday night 1-8 Panthers and Bears. Yeah. So I don't really blame him for not being excited.
That's a fair point.
Although I was a little upset real quick. I was a little upset last week I think it was 2-3 weeks ago. My boy Foy thought had a pick six. And Al Michaels in, and there goes a Lewicon to the end zone, touchdown. I'm like, damn, bro, I got a pick six. Can't get a little more.
There goes a Lewicon.
And he's at the 10.
And he's at the referees are saying he's in. Like, bro, damn, we get a little emotion. Like,
oh no, but this is Al Michaels' favorite. There's a flag on the play on every big play that happens. Yeah, looks like there's a flag. I'm like,
and who is this on?
You still call it as if it's the play that is going to stand. That's like a commentator one-on-one. You have to call it as if no matter what, that play happened.
Yeah, definitely.
If it's a wasted call, it's a wasted call at that point. But you got to nail it the first time.
Yeah, no, for real.
But my bad. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, to your point, it's like these matchups. The NFL really did Amazon greasy when it came to giving them the matchups. The first year that Amazon had that contract and basically like was broadcasting all of Thursday Night Football, other than the season opener, it was straight poverty lineups.
Every match.
You have the Colts playing the Bears. You have the Commanders playing what? I don't know.
The Steelers.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
They're so ugly and the matchups are horrendous. And so like I don't know. Like they really did Amazon greasy. Like it's ridiculous.
You know who really goes crazy though? A longtime announcer in the NFL, Kevin Harlan, man. Kevin Harlan will make a damn cat on the field entertaining. Yeah. He's at the 40. He's at the 40. Yeah. He's at the 30.
There's a cat on the field
running the other direction. He spins around. Touchdown, Kitty. He goes crazy, man.
He's great. I love when he just kind of just wings it.
Yeah,
because there's something crazy happen. Like he'll do a live call of like a field streaker or something.
Right. He's a madman to the 50.
Yeah,
exactly. We were on the subject of tight ends, and we sometimes talk about positions that you can get rid of in fantasy. And mostly we talk about the defense. Some people want to get rid of kickers, which I don't agree with. It's time to debate. Do tight ends really matter in fantasy? I'm asking you this because the top 5 tight ends this past week, K. Dotton, Dalton Schultz, Jake Ferguson, Taysom Hill, who at this point, what is he? Is he a running back? Is he a tight end? Is he a quarterback? Is he
athlete?
Athlete.
The fact that he's labeled as a tight end is actually a steal in fantasy. Like it really is.
And then Jonnu Smith, who's in a committee in Atlanta, which is in fantasy, that team is a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
They are harboring Bijan Robinson. They are giving Tyler Algier carries. They're doing a tight end by committee. What is happening? Mm-hmm. Arthur Smith, you need to be investigated right now.
Down with Arthur. Down with Arthur.
Honestly, man,
Well, did you see November 1st came around as No Shave November, and then Arthur Smith came to the press conference, shaved a mustache, and there was like There's nothing that sums up Arthur Smith more than being the guy who shaves on the first day of November.
Literally.
And in the midst of all this tight end chaos, Kelsey has the biggest dud of the year. I think he had 3 catches for like 9 yards.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
and they still somehow won that game.
Yeah, they did on a Tua fumble, on a Tua Bush to fumble in the 4th.
That game was just it just was very lackluster.
I got up at 6:30 for this.
Dude, I got up for 6:30 as well. You were up, and I think you were up as well. Yeah. But dude,
I hopped in like middle of the
those 6:30 games though, man. It's such a coin flip, dude. You'd be wasting your time sometimes. Like maybe I just should have slept.
Dude, they should have. They would have had another Toy Story broadcast. That would have been kind of lit.
Honestly, those are kind of cool. They got to bring that back.
The Toy Story broadcast.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
I was gonna say the only entertaining like overseas matchup we've had was that Bills and Jags game.
Yeah.
Other than that, everything was poverty.
And it's so unfair that the Jags get a full week in London to prepare for that.
Yeah, that was that's still.
Yeah, we talked about that when they had it, but the fact that they went undefeated in there, props to them, dude. I mean, it's tough.
6-2, man. Duval, watch out.
I know. And they started so slow, right?
Yeah.
And now they're don't
Dude,
the Niners play them this week?
Yeah. I feel like if you watch a Jaguars game, I feel like they have not even clicked. I feel like all of their wins are very clunky.
Yeah.
They usually just make a play or two more than the
ETN been carrying them.
Dude, if they get a little consistency on offense, because Trevor Lawrence in the red zone is kind of a mess. Yeah. A lot of bad decisions, a lot of turnovers. If they can get some consistency on offense, with the defense is doing what it needs to do. They got that linebacking core. They got some guys up front, Trayvon Walker, They get some consistency with Trevor Lawrence. Oh my. Watch out.
Trayvon Walker, former first overall
pick. He hasn't really done much.
He hasn't.
He's kind of been outshined by Josh Allen, to be honest.
And Aiden Hutchinson has been.
And the fact that they could have had Aiden, that hurts.
He's been lights out.
Yeah,
Aiden's a maniac, dude.
Yeah, except when your dad needs him to be. Remember your dad's matchup?
Yeah.
Oh, Fleet's dad. I think it wasn't his personal.
He
matchup,
needed like 2 solo tackles. I think he got like 1 assist.
He had 1 tackle.
Tough scene.
Yeah,
tough scene for the Prez.
The Jags are wilded, man. They have a tight end who's not doing half bad. Evan Ingram. He's been pretty solid so far this year.
He damn near might have like the most targets out of like most tight ends, but like he just doesn't turn it into much in terms of fantasy. They're all just very small to intermediate routes.
They're like screens.
Exactly.
Half of
the same thing happened every game for Evan Ingram. They run a little tight end screen. He gets like 15 yards, and then every catch after that's for like 5 yards. He'll end up with like 6 for 40.
Yeah, and maybe a touchdown if you're lucky.
Oh, dude, I don't even think I think he caught his first touchdown of the year last week.
It's tough.
And of course, when I didn't play him, which is typical. But
I do think Lawrence is going to eat this week. It's weird because the elite defenses people say always are like Philly and the Niners, but if you look at what they allow to the quarterbacks and the pass catchers, they get torn apart.
Yeah,
Philly's literally 32nd. If you have a receiver or a quarterback, again, Sam Howell, our guy, the owner of Philly, who's 0-2 against them.
Yeah.
But Philly, like these vaunted defenses with these big fronts, they give up a lot of passing yards.
No, for sure. I mean, we've talked about this on the last ones, but the Niners are just in a weird spot right now. So we'll see how they come out after this bye week. Maybe and then also Wilkes all of a sudden coming out of the press box and going to the sideline. He needs to bond with his players. Chest bumps after a sack. That'll really fix the problem.
Need some FaceTime for real.
Yeah, but going back to your original question, which was, is tight ends a expendable position in fantasy? I don't know if they're expendable, but you know what the tight ends are like? It's like betting on a first touchdown of the game. That's if you don't have Hawkinson, Andrews, and Kelsey, or maybe Laporta in that conversation, then outside of that, it's like you're just putting 20 on. You're not going to win it.
It's a crap. It's literally a crapshoot.
It is. You're likely not going to win that bet.
And
it's very tough
because tight end's also becoming a position that you just stream. Like if anything,
it's a huge streaming position.
Yeah, that quarterback and defense and special teams are like the 3 positions that are like streamed the heaviest.
That is the position that needs to go. Defensive and special teams. That needs to go, man.
Except
IDP,
the Chargers.
Right after this last week, for real. That was a huge
Chargers defense miracle win.
Literally saved your ass. That's crazy.
Yeah, pulled out a win. That's multiple Monday night wins for you now. By
Monday
the way.
night miracles, man.
Monday night
the
magic.
Bobby Wagner game.
Shout out to Nest.
Shout out to Nest.
Scanny got a couple miracles, bro.
The Wagner game, the Gibbs game.
Got a couple miracles, bro.
Dude, it was crazy. We were watching. I
mirrors.
really needed the Chargers defense to go crazy, and we're watching the game, and the Chargers are going to receive a punt. And I told my girlfriend, I said, a punt return for touchdown, that'd be tight right now. We should let's make that happen. And then unreal.
That's nice.
87 yards to the house.
Yeah, but defensive special teams need to go. IDP needs to become a standard. That needs to become the next mainstream thing in fantasy football is IDPs.
Yeah,
Forget
honestly.
the tight end, removing tight end. Forget a kicker. Kicker is a big part of the game. Why would you remove that in fantasy? That's a huge part of the sport. You don't remove something that's a big part of it.
Right.
But the reason you would remove defensive special teams is to get more specific in terms of how inclusive it is towards both sides of the ball.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that you're subtracting to really add in the end with removing the defensive special teams. That needs to be the next big wave. I hope it is. But let's talk about since we're talking defensive special teams, sometimes it could be fraudulent. Speaking of frauds, what about that crew neck you're wearing? What's up with those guys,
I knew
man?
you were going to go to the Finns, man. They're kind of getting exposed, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I think for me, it's the teams that are really physical. The teams that are really physical and that can really get to the quarterback. I think they're exposing the Dolphins big time.
Yeah.
Dolphins are flashy, not physical.
They are. They're very flashy, very just I don't even know, like, because they can be physical. They have a good running game, but they just like shrink when they play against like these better defenses and like bigger fronts on the defensive line.
I mean,
They're more of like a finesse flashy.
I was gonna say because what is their their efficiency, like their rushing? No, yards after contact. Like, are they getting constant? Like, if they're really physical, they're getting yards after
I mean,
contact.
I know Mostert's having a really good year in terms
Yeah.
of yards after contact.
But also to your point, I feel like he barely gets touched. Like their offensive line is playing fairly
they
well.
have very good schemes for running. Like they
Yeah.
create like very large channels for these running backs. to go through.
H-Hand coming
I was
back,
about to say,
baby.
and now you got H-Hand coming back. Maybe that's a difference
Don't
maker for
bite
them.
your lip.
H-Hand,
Baby
baby.
man was looking around.
Oh my god!
I'm ready. I'm ready.
he said.
I need
Breaking news:
I need him
Scanny's got it for H-Hand.
back. Oh, I need it. Dude,
Chill out, bro.
He's like, you want to talk about a game? You want to talk about a guy?
I'm gonna talk
You
about
want to
guy.
talk about a guy?
Sensual Collinsworth, Sensual Collinsworth. You want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Chris Collinsworth. You want to talk about a guy?
Seth moments in backyard. But dude, the Dolphins, honestly, watching their games, I feel like sometimes they get a little bit too cute, especially in these tougher matchups. There are some plays that they run where I'll replay it and I'm like, what were you trying to do there?
Yeah, they try to get way too cute.
You got Tyreek doing all this motion so you can throw a fade to Cedric Wilson when he's double covered. What? Like,
Dog,
what are we
sometimes
doing?
Tyreek behind the offensive line, he'd just be like squatting to hide. If you seen him, he like hello, he'd just be like, as soon as to a clap,
he
he'd like,
look excited.
dude, he's yeah.
And it doesn't help that Waddle's in the tent 3 times a game. It does.
All right.
That dude's got back spasms, got knee problems, got
got
this,
a lot
got
going
that.
on.
So yeah, the Finns, man, they haven't beat a team with a winning record in I want to say 500 days or so. I've seen a ridiculous stat.
Yeah.
It's been a season and a half since they beat a team over 500. So they've got a lot of questions to answer coming up.
It's a little sad.
They might be on
Yeah.
fraud watch.
Well, let's wrap up week 9 really quick here. I feel like we touched on a lot of it, but let's wrap it up. Let's do a little stock up, stock down. I know we didn't talk too much before about this, but let's just get into it because I have a couple names, and I feel like stock up. We're pretty much just past the halfway point here, right?
Right.
We're going into week 10, so let's talk about some players who have been down for the last few weeks. The first one for me, that is now trending upward. Austin Eckler, finally back, right? This is somebody that probably a lot of people bought low on, sold low on. There was a lot of transactions that probably transpired with Austin Eckler, and then comes back. Was he back the week before this, or was this his first week back?
I believe he was back last week.
But this week, fully back. You see
Yeah.
him get the workload that he usually gets. Dual threat. He was getting a lot of PPR as well, but maybe didn't have the yards to show for it. But
Yeah.
he's a touchdown monster when it comes to fantasy. And the one thing about Eckler that I appreciate and that people that draft him appreciate is that he cares about fantasy. There's a lot of players, and multiple of them have been vocal about it. I don't care about your fantasy team. I don't care about your parlays, all this type of stuff. But Eckler's like, I'll be back soon, guys. I want to get back to 100%. All my fantasy owners. He even gave away something, I think, this last year. He gave away like a fantasy championship belt for if you won your fantasy championship and you had him on your team.
That's fire.
So he's just one of those guys that like actually cares about it because he gets like the passion behind it. So stock up on Austin Eckler the rest of the year. As long as he stays healthy, he is easily a top 3 running back in fantasy.
Mm-hmm. A couple of other running backs that are stock up. Aaron Jones.
Love it. Same boat, really.
Yeah, he's been banged up, and we haven't really known what the workload is going to be like. A couple weeks back, we expect him to be back full go. He gets like 6 touches compared to A.J. Dillon at like 20. And it was kind of like that for a couple weeks in a row. And now LaFleur has come out. The Packers are struggling, and he's like, look, this is Aaron Jones' show now. We seen that last week. I think he had upwards of 25 touches last week. Found his way into the end zone. So big stock up on Aaron Jones. And I know a lot of Aaron Jones owners out there. I've traded him away. But if I would still had him, I'd be very relieved because it was a frustrating 7 or 8 week stretch where you don't know what you're going to get any given week.
Yeah, I would bet that he's probably very heavily percentage rostered on teams that have losing records right now in fantasy. Like him, probably Eckler as well before this last week, and then maybe some other people. But yeah, he's definitely up there. I got one more unless you have one, but
yeah, I got one. I was just gonna say, I have stock up on Devontae Smith going into the second half of the season. Their Eagles are currently on a bye week right now. The last 5-6 weeks has been nothing but the A.J. Brown show, and I love it. I have the man, but I know that regression is due any moment now, and Devontae Smith is too talented of a player. So I think their bye week, they're going to get it right. They're going to figure out what the miscommunications were, and he's probably going to come out and have a stronger second half, but nothing too crazy to outshine A.J. Brown.
Yeah,
Hey, let's say it in unison. I think I know who you're gonna say.
Oh man,
lock eyes.
There's a lot of pressure.
All right, ready?
Here.
Ready?
Hold on,
count it down.
Ready? 3.
Wait. Oh man. Okay. All
3,
right,
2, 1, go.
Alexander Madison.
Nope, that was not what I was gonna say.
You're gonna say at the same time.
I know, but I wanted to hear what he was gonna say.
You was like, say it.
No.
Who you about to pick?
So I got a couple. I'm gonna stay with the wide receiver position. First one for me. Very disappointing. I feel like every year I think he's going to do much more than he really does. DK Metcalf. Stock down on him. I've seen enough, essentially with Geno Smith. I feel like this is his peak, man. Like he barely gets to double digits if he does. When we're talking half PPR or less, he doesn't get the targets, first of all. And the targets that he gets are mostly just like bombs. And those just have a very low success rate, which is crazy when you think about the like physical specimen that he is.
Right.
But he just doesn't do enough in the intermediate to like short screens type of stuff. He's very like that's more of like Lockett's territory. And now Smith and Jigba.
JSN, baby.
They're both taking a bigger role. And for me, every single year I feel like in the last 2 to 3 years, I'm like, Metcalf, man, I'm like ready for this breakout year. I mean, when he first came in, he had a big year.
Monster.
He had a big year. And then every year since, it's almost just kind of been like he's just not doing what what everyone would think he's capable of doing. So I'm very stocked down on Metcalf right now, and I don't have him on a lot of teams. I think maybe only draft him in one league. But
dude,
man, he's just
to your point about Metcalf. A lot of these quarterbacks with an elite receiver, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Stafford to Kupp, Burrow to Chase. It's like they look for them constantly. Yeah. They're under pressure. Where are they at? Where are they at? Where are they at? You see these guys get 12, 14 targets a game.
Yeah.
With DK, he gets like 5, 6 targets. And it feels like Geno there's never a moment where Geno's like, we're going to make a play. I'm going to go to DK no matter what.
Yeah.
Force it to him.
And also if you actually watch the games too, like the targets that he may get like a 9 or 10 target game, but you watch those targets, not all targets are created the same.
Yeah.
And DKs are definitely on the lower end of that, dude. Like, you just see him try to force passes through like traffic once he's like pressured. Like it's not quality looks where the play was designed for him to have a good chunk yardage. So I'm down on DK right now. And
Geno really reads. If you watch them play, he's back there reading. Like he's looking. Look, that's why you see the target volume different every week. I think JSN had the most targets this past week. And week to week, it could be Lockett, could be DK Metcalf. It could be, as Bird says, Jake Bobo. We were at lunch. That boy Bird was saying, I'm about to pick up Jake Bobo.
That's a Nest special right there.
But
yeah, even
to your point, we were talking today, me and Bird, and this man said, I told him I was playing Zillas, and then he was just like, "Oh, who do you have playing tonight?" Something like that, and he was like, "Oh, I think he's playing Chuba." I'm like he's got Chuba.
You got
And
Chuba Hubbard?
I'm like, what? Who?
Chuba
He was
Bubba.
like Chuba, and I'm like,
Oh my god!
I was like, you mean Chuba? And he was like, oh.
He just said, "Oh."
Was it
All right,
Chuba Hubbard?
Something like that. I forgot
my
what he
other
said
half,
exactly.
my other half of my stock down though. Somebody who played tonight, Adam Thielen.
Way down.
Man, I mean,
that was
we knew that
stupid.
he was going to return to earth, right? But man, he's falling off hard here.
Yeah.
Like he was balling in those first like 5 weeks, man, and it was like, man, good for Thielen. Leaves Minnesota, goes to his team that is not really that talented or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's still running great routes, being a great possession receiver. But man, if you held on to him until this point, you are reaping the consequences of holding on to him for too long. He's a player that you should have sold high on.
Yeah.
Same thing with DJ Moore. These guys who have started hot or had a huge game, Mike Evans even, should have sold high on him, man.
And DJ only had like that one game. Like that's kind of like that's saving his like ranking in the fantasy world. Another stock down duo is, I hate to say it, but Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. They have fallen off, and now with Stafford, I know he's slated to
little
come back.
uncertainty.
What
though.
you mean, bro? They signed Carson Wentz.
Yeah, Carson Wentz. Bro. There's some uncertainty with Stafford coming back, and I mean, if they lose again this week, it might be the win show. Because if you're 3-7 going into a bye, it's like, what's the point? Kyron's injured. Why are we gonna keep putting the Stafford out there with a bum thumb if we're 5 games under?
Boy, you better put Kyron back in there. I need a championship run.
You're gonna get the Saquon treatment when he gets back in. If Stafford's out, oh my God, he's gonna have 38 carries a game.
Yeah,
they already were giving him 24 carries with Stafford back there.
Just run him. Just run him.
Run him.
I got one more, and then we'll close out this week 9. I don't know if you guys have another one, but I'm going to go to the quarterback position. Stock up. Burrow is back. He is back. That calf is healthy. After that Niner game, I was like, damn, that bye week actually healed him.
And he was running.
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 And he looked mobile, looked very comfortable. And then again this last week, a big win against the Bills. Burrow's back, man. And fantasy-wise, he's back as well. He is now relevant again. And he's probably a top 5 play the rest of the season, I would say. And damn near matchup proof.
A guy walks into a bar. He's got Tua, Burrow, and Stroud. Who does he start? I'm talking about this man right there.
Yeah.
Who do you start?
I have all 3 of them. I'll probably start Burrow, honestly. I think Stroud is still the 3rd. Just because he's still got that rookie tag, right? And there's still that little inconsistency that can creep in, but it's close. It's definitely Burrow 1 for me, and then it's like 2A, 2B, man. Because Tua is one of those. He's almost like a boomer bust, but like with a decent floor, if that makes any sense.
I know what you mean. Like,
It's
still gonna get
contradictory.
like 1 at 90, but
yeah, exactly. But like he has the potential to not score over 20 points in standard leagues. But like I feel like Stroud is almost like he's gonna get you 20 at least.
like Will would say, when he booms, he booms.
Right. He a boomer.
Hey, real quick, I know we're gonna close this out.
Yeah.
We talked about frauds. You just mentioned the Bills. They're on fraud watch.
They're
on big fraud watch.
Big time.
Yeah.
And I feel like they damn near need to get rid of McDermott. I feel like he's
Yeah.
run his course.
Kind of
Like,
has.
he hasn't been successful when it matters most.
Yeah.
They always have these weird stretches where they just don't play to their potential.
Mhm. It's like
That
they make no
offense-
adjustments.
Yeah, and that offense should be putting up way more points than it is. Like, how are they scoring 18 points against the Bengals? Like, not like the Bengals are like some top tier elite defense. I mean, they're a good defense. They're a good group, but you got Josh Allen, you got Stephon Diggs, another sleeper on the tight end room, Kincaid, who's been filling in for Dawson Knox, has been great.
Yeah, he's balling.
And then you got Gabe Davis, who will somehow get open.
That's probably the biggest boomer bust play in fantasy.
Oh,
he's got to be.
He's in the Hall of Fame of boomer bust.
Him and Rashid Shaheed.
Rashid Shaheed's making a name for himself, definitely in that
And
department.
they got Khalil Shakir.
Oh God,
Central
but
names.
Gabe Davis is damn near in the Mount Rushmore of boomer bust, man.
100%.
He's unbelievable. And the best part about him is that he's gonna boom when you don't play him,
Exactly.
and then he's gonna bust whenever you do play him.
Yeah.
It's like clockwork, man. So
two catches for 34 yards and 2 touchdowns. Bam.
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna start him. 1 catch for 6 yards.
Yeah.
2 targets. So, but that's it for week 9. Let's call it on that one. Let's look ahead to week 10. We've finally crossed the halfway point of the season, and so we're talking second half of the year. But a nice little juicy matchup. I got a note here from Fancy. I'm gonna start on that one. How about a potential shootout? And I pray it is. We need a nice high scoring fantasy week. I feel like that would cure a lot of everyone's like football woes. I feel like there's been a lot of tough, very gritty, low scoring matchups. And this one has the potential to just be an absolute shootout. Houston and the Bengals. That is 2 gunslinging quarterbacks who are both probably the hottest they've been all year going into this matchup. So this could be a lot of fantasy points across the board for everyone.
Yeah, bro. To your point, we need like a nice 31 to 34 type matchup.
Yeah.
Maybe get into the 40s. Like I need the over under to be like a combined like 60 plus.
Yeah.
And this is the matchup to do it. You got Houston. I'm not sure where they're playing. They have Houston playing in Cincy, so we'll see if they can perform on the road. But I mean, like you said, this is primed to be a shootout. So there's a lot of offensive weapons here with the potential of missing T. Higgins, but that's only going to provide a window for Tyler Boyd to come back into the picture. And then Joe Mixon's been firing on all cylinders, and then just what Houston has shown they can do and what they can do with throwing the ball. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Tyler Boyd, the Michael Thomas of the AFC. Is that fair? In this year's fantasy.
Okay.
Like, he's just going to get you that floor every week. He's not really going to boom. He's going to get you like 8 points every week.
Yeah.
He's going to get you 8 points.
See that? Yeah.
You're not getting 20. You're not getting 2. You're getting 8.
This week, though, he has the potential to really step into like that wide receiver 2 range, especially if Higgins and if Chase, even if he does play, I would imagine he's not going to get full complement.
Yeah, snap count.
So maybe he has the chance to step into like a nice little full-time role this week and actually be looked at very often. So we'll see what happens, man. But what do you guys think about Stroud this week? I mean, like I said, I hope it's a shootout. I'm praying for a shootout just for fantasy purposes and for football viewing purposes. But coming off of that 500-point game, pretty much, do you think he comes back down to earth and has a subpar game, or do you think he still has a very nice, solid outing here?
I would like to say I think he's going to come down to earth a little bit. There's going to be some regression. And in my mind, the Bengals defense is a bit better than Tampa.
Definitely.
So, there's going to be some regression. And plus, he's playing on the road. Last week, he was playing at home. So that's definitely going to be a factor.
What is regression, though, when you're coming off a 470 game?
I was just going to say, naturally, there's going to be some regression.
He's not going to go 470
for 470 again.
Right? If he puts up 240 and 3 touchdowns, is that...
No, that's not regression.
No,
that's continuance.
Yeah. That's still a pretty significant performance.
If he has 3 touchdowns and close to 300 yards, he's still on a hot streak. Like, let's not get it mixed up just because he doesn't break, 400 yards and all that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very tough. Like you said, it's in Cincinnati, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, like I said, I'm rooting for a big fantasy game just all across the board. I could see him like coming back down and having a subpar game, like maybe like a 190 and a 2 touchdowns.
We got some action in the background
or something. I was just making sure I didn't hear a crash or something.
Yeah,
that's what I was worried about. So
hopefully the mics picked that up.
It did.
Oh yeah,
I heard it. But yeah, I could see him going. Since we're distracted now, I could see Stroud going. Yeah, I heard tires. 100.
I like turtles.
Right. I heard tires.
No, but yeah, he's likely going to come back
for the 6th time. I could see him doing 190, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Yeah. So anyway,
what's your projection? I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, let's rewind.
No, but yeah, I can see probably a lot of receiver points in this game.
Reverse.
A lot of receiver points in this game. I could see Tank, Nico, Chase, Boyd. Those guys are probably going to have a pretty good day.
Yeah. So, well, next one we got on our list here, Cleveland and Baltimore, which is a very intriguing one. Could be a gritty game.
Yeah, it's gonna be like 9-6.
Shout out Gritty Gang. Shout out Justin.
Justin.
Yeah, it could be a really tight knit one. Like the Browns have a really, really good defense. Like maybe the best in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't give up too much, man. Talk about a defense that actually, when you look at them, you think of them as elite, and then you go look at them, and you're like, yeah, they're elite. You go see the stats that they give up. They don't give up much. So that could be a challenging task.
And Deshaun's like kind of back. Coming off that one,
I don't know about that. I don't know about kind of back. He's like, okay, he looked kind of like himself for
a little
one
bit,
play.
yeah,
So
a little bit.
if he puts together a stretch to like close out the season, maybe then we're talking about Watson being back to himself. But yeah, not quite yet.
Yeah.
But we'll see what he does this weekend, because I mean, Baltimore has a very good defense as well. So if he can move the ball, spread it around, get Cooper his value and other people, I mean, that could be an intriguing matchup as well.
This is going to be interesting too, because I would say Cleveland and Baltimore are the two defenses, probably one of the two defenses in the league that actually like are intimidating and low key and like incite fear into their like opponent. They have just been so dominant. I think the Ravens have they're a top 10 defense, but they're I think they're ranked in the 4th best defense in like terms of like fantasy. Like their point differential, I think it was like I saw the stat. It was I think it was plus, not plus. Is it minus? I really can't remember, but it was 115. Their point differential is
just make it up.
Just make it up. Okay.
Just make it up.
It was minus 115. Yeah, cool. But no, their defense is just lights out. And then you have the defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett, on the other side for Cleveland, who has been lights out, absolutely a monster. And that back end on Cleveland too, Denzel Ward's really getting them boys in the secondary really disciplined. It's gonna be defense is gonna be the biggest storyline in this game.
Shout out Grant Delpit.
Safety
streamer.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, this game's gonna be crazy. This game is gonna be like it's gonna be like a measuring stick kind of game for both teams, because obviously Baltimore we would say is the elite team here, but seeing how Lamar and that offense can operate against this defense, and then seeing just how Cleveland can keep stride or keep pace with this team, it's gonna be a gritty matchup, man. This is like the kind of game where like a very rainy day would fit the environment, like rain, grit, people sliding, mudslide. It's gonna be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot different from the next game on our call sheet. That's for sure. It's going to be a lot different.
Yeah.
Not as many points than that Detroit game.
Detroit
and the Chargers. Is that in LA or is it in Detroit?
I think it's in LA from the way it's written here. Let me check and make sure.
That's going to be one of those. We see
it
like
is
two
in LA. That's correct.
over under 3.5 punts.
Yeah, I you know what? That's a good call. I think it would be a sneaky over, but like barely.
4.
Yeah, like 4 literally. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a fantasy dream right there as well. I mean, both teams they have middle of the pack defenses type of thing, and teams move the ball on them. So I could see Goff having a very nice afternoon.
Monty's back.
Montgomery's back. That running game. Gibbs is going to be back on the sidelines.
Excuse me?
No, that's just a manifestation.
No, he's a bell cow.
No, I think Dan Campbell came out and said it's time for him to shine. He's going to get his touches as well. So
we're still going to see Craig Reynolds at the goal line. Watch.
Oh my God! Still, but it's like it's about time, man. Do we really need to wait half the year? But it is what it is. I get they're trying to not feed him too much all at once. He is the rookie, and they did get Montgomery for a reason, right? He is that kind of workload type of back, but. Yeah, and then I think the great season for Keenan Allen continues. I mean, there's a few receivers out for the Chargers. There's less mouths to feed, and Keenan is just he's a dog. He is about as elite as they come when it comes to being a. Did you guys see that catch last week?
That was nasty.
Yes.
That little one hand.
Nasty.
It was at a big moment too.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was a momentum changer.
Yeah,
for sure. But like for him to be backpedaling, almost losing his balance, and still contort. Mm-hmm. And have that control. And it was like, there was no doubt that he caught it. Like he turned, contorted, caught it, got up, and it was immediately like, I do this. Mm-hmm. And I was like, damn, he's cold, man.
When is Quentin Johnson going to emerge? I feel like we've been waiting on that for a while. And it's like the door is wide open. Because Mike Williams gone. Palmer's going to miss the rest of the year. It's your time, dude. It's you and it's Keenan, and that's it. And he's still really like,
low-key, I think he's going to be a bust.
He might be.
I low-key think he's going to be a bust.
Because
maybe. I believe he's from TCU, right? So he's from TCU. And not to say that his school has like a determination on his like talent level, but like we saw what TCU did last season. Yeah, they got to the They got to the Final Four.
No, they got to the national championship, and
well,
they got
technically they still made the Final Four. Yeah, well they made the.
Well, they no-showed in the final, so yeah, they made it to the top 4.
So technically,
they lost like 59-0 or something crazy.
But they got whooped basically. So we can kind of see TCU was a fraud. They also lost to Colorado, like in like one of the season, like in the beginning of the season. But that's to say that yeah, that team got there, but was the talent really there on that squad to be in that place?
Speaking of TCU, did Max Duggan go to the? Is he in the NFL now? I think he got drafted, right?
I have no idea.
Pardon me, I feel like he's low-key on the Chargers.
I have no idea.
Kind of throwing a lob out. I'm kind of throwing a Hail Mary there. I think if he's drafted, is he a Charger? He is a Charger.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, him and Quentin, man.
Okay.
The TCU boys.
Yeah, man. But last thing I will say on Quentin Johnston, but yeah, first round draft pick, dude. He's getting volume. That's the thing. He's getting a good amount of targets, but it's just nothing is coming. I actually heard a statistic. He on the Monday night matchup against the Jets, he ran the most routes. He ran the most routes of any other receiver on that offense, but turned it into almost nothing. He had I think maybe he had 2 receptions that game for less than 20 yards, but it's just he's getting the looks and he's getting the most exposure, but he's just not making much of it. But it takes a lot of people to produce one football play. So there's a lot of factors.
I could see it upticking though to end the year here. You can turn a little corner. I mean, now with you said Palmer is out.
Yeah,
pretty much
IR. Palmer's in the IR.
So I mean, there's going to be targets to go around. So we'll see I've seen multiple videos on Twitter. The one thing I'll talk about this after, but yeah, I've seen a bunch of stuff on Twitter of his separation and his first step, and he has good route running and good first step and separation, but just hasn't really materialized into anything. But I think maybe a couple more weeks, a little bit more volume with Herbert could help establish a little bit of chemistry. We'll see what happens. But I mean, somebody's got to emerge as number 2 there.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't just be Keenan.
Yeah.
It cannot just be Keenan. They will not be successful. Which, by the way, is something random since we're talking about the Chargers. They're 4-4. How underwhelming is that for that roster? I mean, I know they've won their last few.
But I say they started
Dude, I know they were 1-3 or 1-4.
They were 0-2 for sure. And then
yeah. So they started slow, but I'm dude, you look at the Chargers, you're 4-4.
Yeah,
you know why? I mean, the Raiders are 4-5, dude.
Look at their coach. That's why.
Yeah, they're literally skating by.
Yeah, he makes some interesting decisions, to say the least, for sure.
Brandon Staley? Oh yeah, because if they don't make playoffs, he's out after this season.
But we say that every year, and he keeps his job.
Yeah,
but even after last year, they blew a 27-0 lead at halftime to Jacksonville.
That was insane,
and he kept his damn job, man. He's not leaving.
Well, I mean, considering that happened, I would honestly think
I would hope
more people would give them the benefit of the doubt to say you got one more year,
right?
But if they get to the playoffs and the first round bounce out, it's all right. You buy
if they get there, man. Because you look at the playoff picture right now, Buffalo's not even in there.
Yeah, Buffalo's not even in the playoffs.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just they always get hit with injuries. That's the thing. Because I like the Chargers as a team. They just get they just constantly lose players.
And then they miss field goals or they have 61-yard game winners set against them or something.
Yeah. Well, I want to turn the page to something really quick because I feel like this could be a very sneaky matchup. And I know it's on prime time, but I feel like if this was a 10 a.m. time slot, not a lot of people would be talking about it. But I feel like it has the potential to be a decently close game just because Buffalo's been struggling lately. And that's Monday Night Football, Denver at Buffalo. I don't know why, but I could just see Denver making it somewhat competitive. Yeah, having a close game and maybe even pulling one out. I mean, it's not crazy to think that the Bills can lose another one. I mean, they're master chokers.
Yeah. They got a little life. They got a little life in them in Denver now.
Pause.
You beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But you beat the Chiefs, you got a little life.
Yeah.
And we talked about this recently after they beat Kansas City. They're 3-5. You win a couple games in a row. Next thing you know, you're 5-5 and you're right there in that picture. So
yeah,
that'll be a good matchup, to be honest.
Yeah, no, and if we turn the page to the Sunday night game, now we're talking about a game that might not be as much of an entertaining game. And it includes my team.
For once, I'm so mad that they actually didn't flex this game.
Oh, yeah. They should have flexed it out of that prime time. But, you want to know one thing that the NFL loves? They love a good coaching change.
Yeah.
They love a coaching change followed by a win. Because they're eating this up right now. They're getting so much content out of the
Zach Wilson versus Aiden O'Connell.
Oh, baby.
Just how we all drew it up.
Absolute dream. Salah v. What's his name again? The new coach for the Raiders?
Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
Salah v. Pierce.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be nice.
Prime time, baby.
We're here in the fourth quarter. It's 6-6.
Yeah. Devontae has 3 catches for 25 yards.
Yeah. But on a type of a feel-good story, shout out to the Raiders interim head coach. He on Sunday invited the practice squad players to suit up and be on the sideline during the game. And teams don't usually do that because the practice squad, they contribute to preparing the actual roster and the actual team.
They do a lot.
They run scout, they give them looks, and they give them like good scouting teamwork. But the fact that he let them like suit up and also be on the sideline, like it was a real good morale thing and a good like feel good thing, especially with the new coaching change. So shout out to him for making that happen. It was just really
that was a culture move. Yeah. That was nice, like a really nice gesture, and not only just because he was like, oh, I feel bad for him, I want him to be on sideline. Like he was genuine in his thoughts about they do so much during the week to help us prepare, help us be the team that we are come Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Monday, whatever day it is. And I think that that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, is that you get these guys who sign to the practice squad, right? And they're fighting for a roster spot. They want to be seen and all that. So fair game to them. But at the same time, what they're doing, they play a huge part into the preparation throughout the week for these teams.
Right.
They're the ones that are, oh, you're acting as so-and-so that we're going to play this weekend. You're this person, you're that person. So I think they play a big part. And for him to say, hey, if they got a Raider jersey, they're on the sideline. I liked that. And that's something that's just different. It's a breath of fresh air, right? Especially for a franchise like the Raiders, who have been so bad when it comes to culture the last few years. For him to make that decision and have those people there, it's just kind of like there's more energy, there's more positivity, and like I said, shout out to Pierce. I agree with you. He's really come in and changed the culture and changed the feel of the building overall. So I hope he gets a job, man. I hope they keep winning. I hope that he gets a job and we finally hire someone that got some youthful energy in them.
I wonder what that process is like when you select an interim head coach. Like, because as a coaching staff can range from like, anywhere from 15 to maybe 20, 25 people. So like what is the hierarchy when it comes to determining what's the
what's the elimination process? Like how do you determine who has what it takes?
Yeah, like you have to be a position coach. You have to can you be like an assistant coach?
I think in the case of Pierce, he has an aura and like charisma about him that's very palpable. You feel it.
Very Raider.
You feel it. Yeah, he just radiates kind of energy, positivity, responsibility, ownership. You know what I mean? So I think when it came down to it, I think they really decided to go towards somebody who was kind of a culture guy.
Right.
They just needed something. Mark Davis was probably thinking, we just need somebody that's going to brighten up the locker room, somebody that our guys can relate to. And he came in that first press conference, everybody was like willing to run through a wall for him. You know what I mean? So he just came right in. What you laughing at?
I was just thinking Mark
Davis. Subtle giggle over there.
Mark Davis is the albino coconut head. I'm sorry.
Oh, my God.
Shout out to Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. If you know, then you know.
The most Raider thing would be to go get dogged on Sunday Night Football by Zach Wilson. That would be the most Raider thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we already got dogged by Tyson Bagent. I don't know if it gets any worse than that.
Bagent.
But yeah, no, the most Raider thing would be to not keep Pierce if we end the season well with him, and then go sign like somebody hella old, like Chip Kelly or something.
Yeah.
Like we just signed some like hella old school like type of college coach that hasn't, coached in the NFL for a few years or something. That would be the most Raider thing. But getting back to it, I think Pierce just kind of brought that culture change and that charisma that the locker room needed to kind of just change the tide of the feeling of the building. Like you could tell every one of those players hated McDaniels, bro. Like it is evident that they did not care for him. And then it just feels like a weight lift. They're smoking cigars in the post game, right? In the locker room. And Devontae's like, it wasn't because we won. And it's like, that's loud.
Care to elaborate? Care to elaborate on that, Devontae?
Yeah, no, I don't.
Care to elaborate?
No, I don't. So, but yeah, I mean, that covers the 3 matchups that we had that we looked in, and we did a couple other ones. So, I guess that wraps up our little Week 10 preview. We're officially over that halfway mark. So, man,
it's a very pivotal week in our league when it comes to matchups.
It's a pivotal stretch. These next 2 weeks will pretty much solidify a lot of playoff structure in fantasy leagues across the world. Mm-hmm. So, hey, good luck to all you guys out there. That if you're in your final stretch, if you already clinched a playoff spot, you can sit back and relax. But if you're in the race, man, good luck to you. It's going to be a next couple sweaty weeks.
Yeah, it is.
And a lot of stakes. And, man, a lot of pressure. You got to make the right decisions, right? This is crunch time. This is clutch time for fantasy owners.
You got to get greasy with it.
You got to
get greasy with it. You got to work the waiver wire.
You got to nail those picks, man. You got to make sure you got the guys in the right position, right matchups. You got to look at weather. You got to make sure you're looking at the weather for your kickers.
Relationship. Go on there. You guys healthy right now? You fighting with?
Exactly. You got to make sure everything's good with your players as you get down to these final weeks. So, man, thank you guys for tuning in. We've seen a lot of love, a lot of uptick lately on our Instagram, YouTube, and stuff like that. So we appreciate you guys for supporting us. Keep hitting that like button, subscribe button, follow us on Instagram. But
most importantly, shout out to the GOAT, Scott Hansen.
Yep. Shout out to Scott Hansen showing the pod a little bit of love. We'll see him soon on Red Zone. But yeah, for Fleet, Fancy, and Scanny, that's another episode of Backyard Dynasty. We love you guys.
Yes, sir.
See ya.
We out at 5,000.